Greetings and welcome to Virtually Connecting at the Digital Pedagogy Lab Summit 2018. We're here with a whole variety of different folks, both virtually and on the ground at DPL. And I'd like to turn it over to one of our on-site buddies, Virtually Connecting at DPL, to start the introductions for who's in the room there on the ground. Karen, would you like to kick off introductions in the room?
Sure. I'm Karen Cangelosi. I'm a VC on-site buddy, and I'm just going to ask our guests to each introduce themselves, and maybe Laura can start.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Allen. I am coming from Columbus, Ohio, over at Ohio State, and I'm a DPL fellow this year.
I guess I'll go next. I'm Kate Malloy. I'm a learning technologist in NUI Galway in Ireland. It's my first year here at DPL. I'm enjoying it.
Chris Friend. I do writing classes at St. Leo University in Tampa, Florida, and I'm teaching the intro course right now at Digital Pedagogy Lab. And on Monday, I helped Jesse Sommel do the tools course as well. So I'm exhausted.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kush Patel. I am a digital pedagogy librarian at the University of Michigan, and this is my first time at DPL too.
And I'm Jim Luke. I'm a VC buddy on site here, and I'll just be sitting out of the way.
Great. Did we meet everybody in the room?
Yes.
Yep. Looks like it. Okay, great. Well, I'm Nate Angel. I work for Hypothesis, the nonprofit that develops and stewards open source annotation technologies and practices. And I'm joined here virtually with a couple of different folks. And so I'll ask you to introduce yourself. Richard, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Richard Ullman. I'm a senior developer at University of Gloucestershire for learning, teaching and research systems that we use there. In a previous life, a primary school teacher for about 20 years, spent about half a dozen years as a learning technologist, and currently systems developer, but trying to keep my hand in with teaching and learning and pedagogy and everything that goes with it as well.
Okay, I'm Sherry Spelitz, and I am at home in Vienna, Austria, and I'm an elementary physical education specialist. And I was at DPL last year in Vancouver, and I'm really glad I've been able to attend about 3 of these sessions of Virtually Connecting this year. So I'm curious to hear what's going on right now. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Fuji Lazada. I'm an anthropologist. I've never been to DPL. I'm a DPL noob. But I'm here at Davidson College in North Carolina. I'm Associate Dean of Faculty.
And I'm Nabeli from the American University in Cairo in Egypt, and I'm the co-founder of Virtually Connecting. And I was at DPL last year co-teaching and co-keynoting. And so I'm feeling very, very nostalgic this week. And so I want to hear from each of you, like some of the highlights of the conference for you, well, not the conference, the Institute for you so far. And I'm especially curious about Laura and her workshop. So could we start with that? And
okay. Yeah, sure. So I just taught a workshop about mobile technologies and composing, and thinking about mobile technologies in classroom spaces, because they're there, whether we want them there or not. I want them there personally. So we really started the conversation with just thinking about our different policies at different institutions. They range from some people not, they're not allowed in classrooms at all, to other people who don't really have a say, I guess, or don't really have anything specific about that. So we kind of talked about what it means to help our students identify mobile technologies as this idea as an identity text. So we looked at screenshots of home screens. So if you were to look at your home screen right now, or if someone else were to look at it, what does that say about you and who you are? The cool thing about that is home screens are like fingerprints almost. No home screen is the same. So we started with that, and we moved on to talking about ride sharing apps and doing analysis of those. We looked at Lyft, and we looked at other ride-sharing apps that kind of emerged based on issues of discrimination in popular apps like Lyft or Uber. So we looked at apps like Safer, SAFR, which was pretty much like a ride-sharing app for women, and then Moovin, which is MOOV, I think apostrophe N, was like this ride-sharing app developed for people of color because of the Uber Lyft discrimination. So we talked about what happens that people kind of feel they have to create those kinds of things. So, and we ended with looking at some mobile composing apps like Splice or Filmora Go or Magisto, and what it means to create assignments where students are able to use those apps to kind of compose on the go, if you will. So that was a little summary of my workshop today.
You fit all that in how much time?
I know.
I'm sorry, I missed it.
Yeah, it was a lot, but we worked it out. And we started a little late with the little tornado warning situation we had here. So
I would say go online, follow the tweets, because I was, even though I was in something
Yeah.
else, and it looked more interesting.
And everybody got jumpy because 3 hours later, everybody's phone went off with the Amber Alert.
Yes, yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
Did we lose one?
Yeah.
How about some of the other folks there? Kate, what about you? What has your experience been like so far?
I suppose I'm hiding it off screen, but I broke my wrist a couple of weeks ago, so it was a bit of a will I, won't I travel to this, even though I've been looking forward to it for a really long time. So I found my way here from Ireland, and I think for me, I was trying to, because there are so many people here whose work I follow for so long and agree with so much. And I work for a teaching and learning center at NUI Galway, and I'm a learning technologist. I decided I wanted to start kind of around the intro end. So I'm in Chris's Intro to Critical Digital Pedagogy track, and I was in Jesse and Chris's Tools and Tools Hacking track on Monday, the one-day course. And I think it's just nice to be in a space where I think I attend, like so many of us do, so many academic conferences, that to attend something a bit longer and more drawn out, where there's time to tease out ideas with not only, the teaching, staff that are here, but with like-minded people from around the world has been really interesting. And it's not to plug something from work, but I gave a little lightning talk on our digital skills project, All Aboard, on Tuesday. And it was just really interesting when I brought about 20 of our resource packs with us, just to show other people, just to gauge what the reaction was. And it was just really nice to see a different perspective on the kind of work we're doing, and the amount of people that kind of came up to say, well, you know what, we're actually starting this, but at our institution, and you have an open resource for it, can we use it? And great, and can we stay in touch? So I think for me, it's been just kind of about making new friends and new contacts so far. It's kind of, I already started plotting yesterday when Sean announced the institutes for next year. I started just looking up flights the other day, and I realized I can fly Dublin to Connecticut and stay with my family relatively cheaply around those times. So I think I'm trying to make the yearly thing out of it if I'm allowed to. So
it's good if you're already making plans to attend next year, right?
I'm not going to lie, I looked up flights while you were talking. Yeah, but that's a good sign. That's a good sign. So
what about you, Kush?
Well, so this may have been my first time at the DPL, but I've followed the work of this community for a long time now on social media, on Twitter. And I was also in Chris's class at the DHSI last month. And so...
Lucky you. That's a big dose of digital pedagogy.
Sorry, Maha?
That is a big dose of digital pedagogy this summer.
It has been. I mean, it's like, living and breathing my work, but over vacation with great peers and colleagues. And it's just wonderful to be part of this community. I mean, several highlights, including last night's keynote.
Yes.
I think it was such a wonderful, playful, energizing way to think of pedagogy. And it was pedagogy in practice, literally sort of thinking through how, in what ways we engage with questions and queries that come our way, whether as faculty or as librarians or as hybrid professionals within and beyond academia. So I have enjoyed every bit of both seeing familiar faces, but also meeting new ones. And thinking along digital pedagogical lines more broadly. Yeah.
It's my turn. I've really enjoyed the conversations that I've had with folks in all the classes. The intro class, we deal more with questions than with answers, and it's a very broad-based course, so we're talking about different stuff all the time, and we kind of don't have enough time to go do deep dives into all the stuff we talk about, but we go just far enough to kind of whet everybody's appetite, to get them interested, and to show the kinds of questions to ask to continue the investigation by the time you get home, sort of thing. And it's been delightful hearing the conversations of everyone in those courses to see what they're interested in and how they leave the room with their faces kind of lit up a bit, but saying, but I have this question that I don't have an answer to, and I need to go back to my institution and ask it now, which I love seeing that happen. For me, the most beneficial thing has been the people who are here and the mentality of the people, that no matter what we're doing or what we're talking about at DPL, we are always starting with humanity. And we're saying that we're dealing with people first, and then whatever it is on top of that. So how do we teach people? How do we interact with people? How do we use technology to connect us with people? The affective energy at this conference, and the affective labor and the respect for affective labor is different here than at any other event I've attended, where it seems that everyone gathered here recognizes the importance of and the need for affective awareness in education. And to spend so much time, like you were saying, at other academic conferences, and then coming here, the feeling is so different. And that's, I think, the best word for it, because we are all still deeply, passionately concerned with education and academia, but we throw on that layer of worrying about the people behind it and caring for the people that is so wonderful to be immersed in, and so great to witness. It's a lovely environment.
And if I may add, speaking of immersion, I have thoroughly enjoyed the game, the DigiDex game that Chris developed and has shared with us.
Yeah, tell us about that. I've seen people tweet things to me at Twitter, and they say this is for the game, and I'm like, nobody explained to me what that game is. What is that?
I was talking to Chris last night as well, that for me, that it may have been a sort of a game, it's been conceived of as a game, but I think it's been so valuable for me to sort of think of those as moments to both register but also reflect upon sort of the experiences that we are constantly having here. And that's been my kind of a record of what that game is.
Someone explain the game. This is how you feel about the game. We want to know what the game is.
So to start, oh wow, you're looking for handouts here too. Okay. So I will start.
Here's an example of a card. We all got one. We all got a card in the swag bag when we registered.
I do want to start where it's due. This was not completely my idea. When I was attending the conference on college composition and communication, the 4 Cs, they have their own augmented reality trading card game that they call Seize the Day. I totally stole this idea from Seize the Day, so they get all the credit for it. But we've got a deck of 64 different trading cards.
That's true.
They have different people on them, speakers at this event, authors who have influenced critical pedagogy. We've got cards with locations on them, different buildings around University of Mary Washington or downtown Fredericksburg. My goodness, you're collecting a lot of them.
Oh my gosh.
How come Karen has so many?
I want a t-shirt.
Nice.
So I'll answer that question in a second,
Yeah.
So we also have a card for every workshop and a card for every class. So it's a representation of all the stuff that goes into making Digital Pedagogy Lab a thing. Then we also have a list of quests that people can complete. And it's basically actions that you would do at a conference if you wanted to get more involved in it. And that's what really got me thinking of the game in the first place. At the 4 Cs, that conference is huge. What, 2,500 people go or something along those lines.
Yeah.
It's just massive, and you get lost so easily.
Yeah.
And my first time attending was as a graduate student. I was like, who are these people, and why am I not worthy, and all that stuff. And having a list of little manageable tasks to be able to go try something new and break the ice with somebody I wouldn't otherwise talk to really helped me. And being able to blame it on a game and not on me being weird was fantastic. So I could go up to this dignitary and say, I've never met you, but I've read you. Oh my gosh, would you sign my quest book, please? And I had no idea what I was doing, but the game got me to interact with them. And then I saw that they're just a normal human being, and I calmed down and everything was great. It gave me an on-road to the conference. So that's the idea behind the quests. It's things that people can do that are manageable, that are simple, that will get them to interact with other people and get them to interact with Digital Pedagogy Lab in ways that they might not necessarily have thought. And then we incentivize with, you can get extra cards for completing them, which is why Karen's got so many of them, because she's been doing so much, and it's awesome. And then if you collect enough, you can do other quests because you've got cards that you can trade for, and you collect all 5 or whatever, that sort of thing. So it's all silliness, it's all fun, but it's keeping people engaged in the conference, and it's keeping people engaged with one another. Because most of the quests are all about what you can do with and for other people at this conference. And it's become this thing that everybody's just talking about. It's an icebreaker. It's just an excuse to interact. The folks who work here in the Hurley Convergence Center even get excited by it. They're helping out at the front desk by rewarding people for their quests. But they also took a stack of cards and hid them throughout the building, turning it into basically an Easter egg hunt. So you'll see people walking down the halls just saying, haha, look what I found. And they get excited by getting extra cards. It's just ridiculous fun. That's all there is to it.
I was just curious, was there some sort of controversy around Jade's card? In her keynote, she seemed to bring.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Jade kind of in advance of the conference, Jade found out she was going to be a card. And I don't think she knew anything about the game or what the cards were. And she tweeted out something about, she felt like her soul had been captured and she was going, wanted something to get the card back and make herself complete. Otherwise, she'd be evil. And Kathy Davidson responded and said, "Just be evil in the keynote." And that actually turned into a theme in the keynote.
I have a Kathy Davidson card, so
if Kathy ever watches this and she wants her soul back,
Karen has all the cards.
Not all.
But then wasn't it the one? The last question then, of course, in the keynote was, Jade, will you sign my card? Which ended things that were already in a high, I think, on a higher level.
Yeah. Because one of the quests is to attend a keynote and have the presenter sign the card that you have of them. And
ask a question of them and have them.
And that was another one too. Yeah. So we just cleaned up. It was fantastic. It was the best way to end the keynote. It was awesome.
Yeah. But Jade wasn't actually mad then. Good.
No.
Go ahead, Fuji. Sorry.
No, Karen showed Sherry's card. Does Karen get some more points because Sherry's virtually connected now? Is that a quest?
Y'all look at me. Oh.
You all should add a virtually connecting quest in it. Hey, Chris, next year, virtually connecting part of the quest.
Yeah.
We'll talk.
That would be a cool way. Because see, Laura and Kush don't know us, and this is their first virtually connecting, right? And Sean was like, try to get new people. And we always try to get new people, but people don't know how to sign up or how to become part of it. And, it's just like whoever I managed to reach out to. So if you have a few of those, then we would get a lot of random people who'd never heard of virtually connecting.
And you get...
Or you get Teresa in a conference and she drags you in anyway.
That's a new quest, so we can get points for that.
We can make that happen.
Yeah.
So let me ask, because I've never been to DPL. So I see that there was 1 day and a 4-day class, and then you guys are running around doing quests and things like that.
We don't.
I guess you don't sleep. So it's all scheduled, so there's no conflict between the different. I was just looking at the schedule and was trying to make sense of it.
Sean, I think the schedule was all the work of Sean Michael Morris. I think he's the brainchild behind how it works. And with having so much going on, it's still designed to not have much overlap. The only time there is overlap is during the workshops, when you can choose one workshop out of however many are being offered. But the classes do not meet during workshop time. Workshops are not held during lunch. There's just this buffer when we say, okay, everybody, now it's time to go to a workshop. Choose which workshop you want to do, and everybody kind of goes to one. And of course, you don't have to, but most people do because they're fascinating topics, and there's time built into the schedule to encourage you to go to a workshop.
Yeah.
And then and so you choose which class you want to do on Monday. If you wanted to, you choose which class you want to do the rest of the 4 days. Keynotes obviously are keynotes. Then you choose the workshop. So it makes more sense than it might appear on the website.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been kind of nice because I had a hard time picking which course, the main stuff for the 4 days, which one to go in, and I felt the opportunity cost powerfully about, I can't do these others. But as it turns out, like the track I've been in on practice with Bill Fitzgerald and Chris Gilliard, we've actually, collaborated, huddled, met with yesterday with a different course, and then this afternoon with another course.
Yeah.
So you've got a sampling.
Yeah, it's kind of nice.
Yeah, I think it takes some.
I've done a couple of DPLs, one in Cairo and the one over there, and it's also, a lot of people used to be fear they have FOMO about what's happening somewhere else. So having that 1 day track was nice, so that people could have that opportunity, and the 4 days, and then it's less exhausting it's less than having 5 days.
Right.
Yeah. Or it was an additional opportunity for FOMO because you now had all the classes.
That's kind of true. I guess that's kind of true.
I must say,
I thought it was. Go ahead.
Someone that booked far in advance. I was having pre-FOMO that I ended up sending. I had to take a screenshot of the program and start numbering things, and I kept sending it back and forth to Catherine Cronin down the hallway, and back and forth, and finally said, Kate, you have to come up with something. You have to figure it out. But I think when there's just that much, there's that much to choose from, and you can take any of them and enjoy it.
I delayed registering for 7 weeks because I couldn't.
And when I did it, I was sweating profuse, and I was just shaking trying to hit submit because I couldn't make up my mind. It's one of the few times in my adult life.
A lot of good choices. Yeah.
It's hard to pick because they're all interesting topics, and they're all a place that I'd like to sit for 4 days.
Yeah.
I fear missing out. I still need to take Amy Collier's class. Every year I wish I were in that class. What can you do?
I was kind of struck by that comment at the end of Anya's keynote about centaurs and about which part of the centaur are we really going to be. Did you guys note that?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Still trying to make sense of it.
Yeah, that happened.
That happens. Okay, we'll leave it there. Trying to leave some room here in case Sherry or Richard, did you have things that you wanted to say?
I'm enjoying listening and hearing what's been going on there, really. I've never been to DPL, but it does sound like an extended version of the old conference that we have over here in the UK that I'll be going to in, I was going to say October, but it's September. And hoping to virtually connect and be one of Maha's online buddies or on-site buddies for that. And I have a similar problem there. I can never decide which of the rooms and the sessions to go to because I want to go to so many of them and they tend to clash. But yeah, it's great to hear what goes on at DPL. I just wish I could get my uni to fund me going over there.
Yeah, but no, I just want to clarify, it's nothing at all like Alt-C because I've been to the Alt conference. The Alt conference is a conference, so there are keynotes and there's parallel sessions, and you go to a session, you get out of a session, and you have a theme for 3 or 4 sessions in a row, and that's pretty much. They have several formats, but DPL is like an intensive. You stay with a cohort for these. Usually used to be 5, but now it's 4 days. You're with your cohort the whole 4 days, except for keynote time and workshop time.
Right.
So you're with each other from 9 to 4 or 9. Yeah, pretty much 9 to 4-ish, with lunch in between, maybe a workshop, maybe a keynote on each day. So it's more like teaching and learning a course than it is attending a conference.
Okay, thank you.
And the other thing, I have to say this, I like the OER 18 and 17 conferences. Alt has a very different feel because it feels a bit more commercial, and this is normal for those huge conferences, right? It's huge, and there's a vendor space, and there's that, and there are also a lot of people with different mentalities about edtech. So on the very radical side and on the very traditional side. Whereas Digital Pedagogy Lab is almost completely liberal, I think, and people who are social justice and critical pedagogy focused. And
Yeah.
it's very rare to get that many of them in one place.
One place. Okay,
So
so
it
maybe
is,
well, yeah. Not in structure, because none of the alt conferences are structured like that. But in terms of the people that are there, perhaps more like the crowd we had at the OER this year than alt. But yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay, I have a question for you guys, because I know that it's almost time for you to pack up and head out. And of course, when you're going back to your institutions, and because the Institute is such a deep experience, and I'm wondering about how you are going to leave radicalized, and what your radicalization will look like. Yeah.
Yeah, I can start with that. So I am in the privacy 4-day track. You are also
Right,
yeah. So
I'm in there too.
that track, the first day, it was rough. It was a little rough. We had to start playing like kitten videos and stuff in between, because it's heavy stuff, you know. And so I think that it definitely has gotten wonderful in terms of my understanding, because we went over terms and things like that. And I think that for my institution, like at Ohio State, one thing we do really well in my department is talk about accessibility and access. And I really want us to kind of have that same rigor when it comes to privacy. So I'm really thinking about how I can be the one to kind of champion that when I go back, because I don't think it's something we think about enough in terms of our students, in terms of ourselves. And my understandings of privacy have completely shifted. We talked a lot about privacy as not always an individual thing, but relational. And that is huge when it comes to classrooms, because I mean, so I could go on and on, so I'll keep it short. But yeah, so that's one thing that I'll definitely take back and think more about, well on into this year or so.
Bill, gonna take a turn? Yeah, for me, I guess I work at CELT and NUI Galway, and I work for super supportive people that tend to think this way anyway. So I don't think I have to leave terribly radicalized. It's more our team, fighting for these kind of themes and justices on a larger scale, in the larger university setting. So what I'm hoping to do on a small scale, and even for Chris's, our project that we're kind of working towards, is I deliver training and support and around learning design for online and blended learning. And what I've been doing over the course of a couple of years is moving away from some of the more outdated kind of theories and activities behind that, and incorporating more theory, and bringing in Sean and Jesse and people I'm reading and enjoying, but really maybe trying to design, because we're quite small, our unit, we're quite short-staffed, is maybe putting together a better kind of compendium of resources and maybe a toolkit to give to people that are moving into those spaces. And to be fair, as we'd often say, everyone is teaching online to some extent or in a hybrid sense anyway. So even if you're not, teaching fully in that space, is that maybe just to share in a more, I don't want to say accessible way, but maybe just to pull together some of the ideas in a more loose sense, to share with staff members, maybe not to overload them with what we're doing here, but maybe just to water it down a tiny bit and get people interested. And I think what we're trying to do is really look at what I'm taking away from here and what's going on, with all these good folks here, is that this is a discipline. Critical digital pedagogy is something in and of itself that we need to be cognizant of, in terms of our practice. So hoping to try to start that. I don't know how quickly it'll roll out.
I'm curious about something, because you work with Catherine Cronin, and I think that side of the pond, there is a critical approach to educational technology, but they don't call it critical digital pedagogy. So the folks at University of Edinburgh, Catherine definitely, a few other people who are, like Richard was saying, proud at OER 18. on the more critical edge. What would they call it? Open educational practices or critical open education or something, right?
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, the term isn't really thrown around a lot, but and like you were saying with like the alt conference, obviously, you know, people do fall on two ends of the spectrum, you know, in the UK and maybe in Ireland, as opposed to, you know, who is a bit more left leaning and critical of the tech. I think what I'd take away from it, and I think it would be safe to say, Catherine probably thinks this, you know, the same way, and some of those folks doing that work, is a term Chris has been throwing out, is that remaining agnostic and remaining, you know, and just. And it's something I've been trying to do without even being cognizant I was doing it, and a lot of kind of training and documentation and work is not calling things by their brand names, not directing people. And we're very careful not to do that. You know, we don't dictate, you know, there are obviously certain systems that people have to submit grades through and things like that and attendance, but, you know, we try to tell people to be as creative and as open as possible, you know, with what they're using. So we try not to say this is exactly the way to do it and here's our policy. So just maybe remaining doubtful and agnostic and just.
We had exactly the same thing recently where I had to persuade one of our academic directors that our text matching policy should be called a text matching policy, not a Turnitin policy. And then it's extending that as a, yes, don't use the brand name for things, don't use the tool name. Ask, and it comes right down to what we expect from assessments and students working and things, isn't it? I've just been asked if I'll do some work next year for Cardiff University. And when they were telling me about the module they'd like me to tutor and mark, it was, we expect our students to create a resource in Xerte. Don't know if any of you are familiar with Xerte. And I'm there thinking, why not just ask them to create a resource? It doesn't matter what tool. These are students, they're medical practitioners being asked to learn how to teach, basically. So what, they're not going to use Xerte after they finish their course. So what difference does it make? Ask them to make a resource that is suitable for teaching and learning, justify the pedagogy behind it, but don't worry about what tool they're using.
And using the more application or platform agnostic language shifts the way we think of our technology, and it shifts our expectations of our tech. So if I tell you to use that particular application, you just go, oh, okay, this is the way it's done. But if I tell you to open up a resource development application, or if I say we're going to make a multimedia project using the development platform of your choice, or open up your word processing document and create blah, 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 I allow you to turn that into a problem-solving scenario. I know it's minor and simple, but you recognize, oh, I have this task I need to perform. What tool do I have in my arsenal that is best applied to that problem to solve? And it's no longer, we all need to be using Office 365 and Microsoft Word will solve all of our problems. It becomes, I'm comfortable with this platform and this program, and therefore I will use it.
Yeah. This reminds me of something Jade was talking about yesterday as well, is when you try to connect this to employability, you think when a person goes out into the job market, they need to be able to choose the right tool for what they're trying to do, even if their company is currently not using the right one, rather than make it easy for students. Because sometimes they say, well, we'll make it easy for students, we'll use something we support or that we can help them with. But actually, no, they need to be able to learn it and figure out which one is the right one. And if they don't have time to make that decision, they can learn from their colleagues. Someone in the class will not be struggling, and they can help the others. And you can, occasionally, this is not the time that I want them to do that. I'll recommend something, but I'll still give them the freedom to choose something else if they prefer, or if they already use it, or if they want to try it. But yeah, that's a great point, because what are we trying to teach them? Are we trying to teach them that tool or the thing that we're trying to teach them? And then there's no reason to be deterministic about the things that's not the thing we're trying to teach, right?
Some become obsolete too. You don't want to teach them.
Hey, also, I have to step out to meet with some of the fellows.
And we recognize that we've been keeping you all for quite a while, and so we could maybe try to bring it to a close. If there's anything that you wanted to make sure we walked away with.
I to sort of continue with the conversation about how important this whole institute has been in terms of drawing attention to the sort of the ethics and politics of pedagogies and tools that we use, as opposed to whether or not one is proficient in one tool or the other. And I think that is at the heart of critical pedagogical training and learning for all of us as educators, as community members. And so I think that was a message that was brilliantly articulated by last night's keynote speaker, Jade, as well. And one thing, going back to the question, I think one thing that I have definitely taken back to my university is to how to make visible this labor of digital pedagogical scholarship work that we do, either as faculty members or in collaboration with librarians, which has been my sort of workplace. And that goes a long way in terms of thinking through the learning goals of courses and projects that we're all part of. So I think question of labor, and to simplify, as Jade often said in both of sort of the sections of our talk, to simplify and to sort of articulate that more clearly, I think is a valuable lesson to go with.
And for my part, in the middle of class yesterday, I forget what we were talking about, but as I was going around the room and listening to the different conversations from the different groups, I was kind of trying to synthesize what I heard and trying to make sure I understood what groups were talking about, even though I was just sort of passing by. And as I was taking some notes, I put them on the board just to make sure I got things down correctly from the different groups. And I had a realization that the things they were discussing helped inform work that I'm doing at my campus for the Gay Straight Alliance that I'm a faculty mentor for. And we're doing work to create safe zone training right now. And I recognized that, all the things that we're talking about here at Digital Pedagogy Lab directly apply to that sort of work, because it is just as worried about the human as anything else that we do. And so my class has given me this awareness of the relevance of these things to the stuff that is not directly related to the teaching work that I'm allegedly doing at school, right? It's these peripheral things are also just as important and just as connected to critical pedagogy.
That makes total sense. What about you, Karen? You've only been able to show off your gameplay devices, but
that wasn't enough.
Are you taking something home?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, besides cards. I think I talked in a couple of other sessions already, so I didn't want to take up too much time. But certainly the writing that we've been doing has been very reflective on taking home changes to my syllabus and ways that I think about communicating with my students, which sometimes is challenging when you're teaching a science course. You're supposed to talk in a certain language, so bringing that sort of human component into like a biology seminar class has its own sort of challenges, and I'm sort of struggling.
One of the very influential hybrid pedagogy articles for me was one by Adam Heidebrink Bruno, which was called Syllabus as Manifesto or something. And it was the first time I actually started to think about, how do I address students in my syllabus? Instead of saying students should be able to, I say you should be able to, and I am your teacher, and this is why I teach this way. And I don't know if students will ever read it. They don't always still read the syllabus, but just writing it that way changed the way I thought about my course, and changes like the first day of the class. So there's all these little things, and I think there's a lot in general. Reading hybrid pedagogy sort of gets us in that kind of mindset. Have people been talking about student labor? Go ahead, Chris. You were saying something else.
In the intro course today, we were talking about how empathy plays a role in education and how it's necessary in the courses that we do. And we did a little exercise to see how we could imbue is the word I want, I think, is how we can imbue empathy into our classes and our activities and such. And most of the groups in class were looking at their syllabi, and people would pull up their syllabus on the screen in front of them and say, all right, how can I be more empathetic in this document that I've already crafted? And we were making changes to it on the spot, saying, I need to be more aware of and cognizant of what my students are dealing with and their humanness, their humanity that they're bringing with them into the classroom. It's been wonderful to watch that, how the attention to the people and our affective state in the classroom is now translating into the way that we are going to be acting out our pedagogy in our classes in the future.
Well, we know I'm just don't want to keep you past the time when you should be out doing a workshop or whatever is next on your schedule. Do you have
so many interesting places to eat in Fredericksburg.
Well, it's been a great conversation. We really appreciate it, but I do want to give you the chance to actually go out and enjoy the rest of the festivities.
Okay, thanks,
tornado.
Nate.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thanks,
you
Nate.
and everyone. So we're going to sign off now, and it was great chatting with all of you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Good to meet you all.
Bye. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
If virtual folks want to stick around and continue the conversation, we can certainly
Put a love. And put a love again.
Hunter wants to send a love emoji to Sherry.
Okay. We can at
Okay,
least agree on that.
I go because I need to put her in bed. It's 11:30.
I'm going to go ahead and stop the broadcast.